out, like GameStop usually will go for like another 4 days. And I don't think people look at GameStop as being kind of the place to buy figures.
I did check. That was the second place I checked, but they were out. So I went to Prime, Amazon Prime, sold out there. And I'm like,
oh no. Well, if I find one, man, I'll give you a call, man.
And yeah, let me know. That would be cool. Sorry, I'm kind of messing around with the lighting on this, trying to get the best. Yeah, it seems
about right, huh? I love the shirt too, man.
Oh, thanks, man. I'm a big
Beastie Boys, man.
Yeah, I do like the Beastie Boys. Beastie Boys are great.
Yeah.
There's only 2 members left, though, so it's kind of.
I don't know if that we're getting. I think we're getting a little bit older, John.
You know, those guys are probably in their 50s or mid 50s by now. So.
Yeah, I'm 50, so I feel like I'm not that old, but
I don't feel like I'm that old either. But people are living longer these days, so I don't know.
I have a feeling if you're a member of the Beastie Boys, you probably went pretty hard for a few years.
Yeah, you know, all of them, I think their last 20 years, they actually cleaned up, and I think they went vegan and swore off drugs and alcohol. So,
yeah,
I guess hard living, you know, I don't know. That's kind of a tough deal, man. But I guess if you got the money, you've got that much money, and you know your ego's out of control. I guess you're like, oh, you know, maybe I'll do cocaine. You know, I guess. You know, that's I guess that's how it goes. So
exactly. I remember in 6th grade waiting for the song to come on the radio, and I had my cassette and the player ready to hit record.
Oh, yeah, we all did that, right? This is back in the day, right? I don't know if kids still do that. I don't know if they have tape decks or I think
with Spotify, it's just so easy just to hop on Spotify now. I don't know.
Yeah.
I miss the old tape days, though, man.
I miss the old tape days. It's something physical that you could play over and over and over because you had your mixtapes. You'd make your mixtapes of your jams that you listen to with your friends. And
exactly.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore. They have like their Spotify playlist that they play and they can share and post online and talk about. I guess I guess it's just I don't know. I'm still a proponent of physical media. You know, the idea of owning something, because you're paying for the right to watch it or listen to it anytime you want. You don't actually own it, which is weird because I had a Sony account, I had some games on it that disappeared. And they're like, well, we're not using it anymore. And, you know, this is a game I paid like $50 for. So I'm just like, and same with some of my Amazon music, or not Amazon, but Apple Music kind of disappeared too. So
really,
and I'm like, dude, like, oh wow, you don't really own anything. Like once the rights are gone, they just yank it. You know, like, okay, off the platform, you don't have it anymore. So.
That's probably why I'm a little nervous about like things like Bitcoin and stuff like that because it's not tangible. I just worry about that.
Yeah, it's just fiat money, much like our currency. But the thing is, with Bitcoin, they say they only mint so much. That's why the value is so much. So there's only like maybe $7 million of Bitcoin floating around, or 9 million, or whatever number that is, and that's all that there will ever be.
Yeah. But
it's kind of like assessing value to something that is not physical, and then it's just like, well, what's backing it? Just your good faith that that's it. You know, that it's not backed by gold or anything physical or anything like that. And I think Bitcoin had a problem with their vaults being hacked. So everyone lost their money. So Bitcoin replaced that money. So that other stolen Bitcoin is still out there in existence. It's still being used and traded. So the actual amount is still doubled that's out there. So it's strange.
Weird times, man. Hard to wrap my head around that stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, stick to physical media, man.
Exactly. That's why I like my floppies, man. I gotta have my floppies.
I think that's a good thing. Say I buy floppies and I buy trades. So if it's like, okay, I don't want to mess with these, then I just crack open a trade, buy a trade, and flip that. That way I don't have to look at my giant size X-Men #1. Yeah.
Well, I mean, speaking about trades and floppies, Jonboy, like someone who's been in the industry as long as you have, what does a Jonboy like look forward to read? Like, are you collecting anything once a week? Like, what is the title that you're like, man, this is pretty awesome, man?
So somebody told me, and I think it was artist Dave Johnson, when I first started, she goes, you know, once you start working in this industry, you'll instantly stop collecting comics. I'm like, no, never. But then a few years later, like I wasn't picking up much. But there are guys that I do pick up like regular, like Dan Mora. I absolutely love the guy's work. Anything he draws, I pick up. And yeah, like if I could show you my studio, there's like just printouts of his stuff posted everywhere. I'm just trying to like figure out like how he works so fast and how he builds structure and volume. And it's just like, wow, this guy's like a unbelievable talent. And guys like Stuart Immonen, or anything they do, I'll pick up. Ed McGuinness, Travis Charest, who's amazing but doesn't do a lot of work anymore. He just mainly covers. And it's usually more for artists and things like that. Like very seldom am I picking up something to read. I think Mark Waid and Dan Mora on World's Finest is something I read rather regularly. I'm reading all the G.I. Joe and Transformer stuff because I'm like really excited about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a little few and far. My stuff is still artist driven still. Yeah. So yeah, just feeding like my need to improve and to get better and improve as an artist. And you want to see what other people are doing whose work you respect, and you're like, man, how do they do that? And trying to figure that out, and trying to incorporate that into your own work and get better and better. And like somebody that anybody in the know is not picking up, they should be, is like Dan Panosian, who's doing stuff and been doing stuff for a long time. But I just feel like now people are starting to notice his work, but his stuff is just becoming next level. It's just with the colors and the inks, the way he inks it's like Franzetta met Scott Williams and they had a baby and that was it. It's like, oh, here it is. It's slick, but it's classic, and the structure is good, and it's just it's kind of like a reinvention of pulp art with a modern spin on it, is the only way I can describe it. And I mean that in the best sense. It's just like something that's totally unique, and I like picking up stuff like that too, because it's like I'm looking like fuck, how did Dan do that? Like, what is he doing now? I'm like, man, like I talked to him at Portland. I'm like, dude, you got to show me how you ink. He goes, oh, well, you just pick up the brush and do that. And I'm like, okay. It's just not like, I think that's the difference though, because Dan started very, very young, and he worked in the studio, and he worked under Neil Adams, and he worked under all these guys like Rob Liefeld and Tim Townsend and stuff like that. And then he worked, in studio with, Dan Panosian, or Dan Panosian. We were talking about Dan Panosian, Dave Johnson and Jeff Johnson, and who else was part of that crew? It was the Drink and Draw guys. So all those guys, Stephen Jones, and all those like ultra talented dudes. And I think there's something to be said about people who can work in a studio environment and learn and pick up stuff, because usually when you work in a studio, when somebody figures something out, they kind of share it with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you're on your own little bubble, like where I'm at, I'm just like, Northern California, working in my tiny room, trying to get stuff done and trying to figure things out on my own. It takes you a lot longer to learn, where as studio, you have force multipliers, which is the thing in the know. And I think the only guy that's local to me is like Arthur Adams and Joyce, and they're in Oakland, but Art's like, nah, I don't want any visitors because I work well alone.
Yeah.
There's just no room for you here. And I was like, oh. which was sad because when I was living in Colorado, Campbell was in Golden. So I was like, 2 hours away. And I'm like, dude, you want to get together and draw? He's like, nah. Like, all right. Nobody wants to.
Jonboy, that's terrible, man.
Well, like, I guess everyone gets in their own groove and wants to do their own thing. But for me, I think there's still a need to be around other creatives and kind of to see how they work and what they do. And the thing about it is, you never want to kind of like peak as an artist. You always want to continue to improve and evolve. And the thing is, if you're hanging around guys who are better than you, you're probably not going to be as good as them, but you will get better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't want to be the smartest guy in the room, quote unquote, because if you are, then you need to find a new room. You know what I mean? There's always room for growth and improvement and getting better, and you have to kind of seek those things out. So I'm kind of to a point where I'm just like, maybe I need to take a week vacation where I just go to LA and like just follow Dan everywhere. I'm like, hey, Dan, I want to figure out how you ink. I just want to watch you work and work beside you and kind of be a fly in a wall. And he'll probably like, go away. But, you kind of want that idea of trying to like that continuing education, because you don't want to ever be comfortable, when you're on that mountaintop pouring Kool-Aid on yourself and saying you've made it.
Yeah.
There's always room to be better. You always want to continue to evolve and change. And because, you don't want to, I think that's the worst thing for me. I don't want to be the same artist 10 years from now. If I am, I'm just like, wow, there's no growth here. And it's just like, yeah, that's a bad place to be, because it's just like, it just shows that you haven't really challenged yourself. You're just kind of going through the motions. And you actually, I think when you do that, your work actually declines. And I'm always worried about, because I know my speed has kind of declined a little bit because I'm more into detail now. And I'm just like, wow, how do I start simplifying my work again? It's all these.
How do you overcome that, Jonboy? How do you overcome that when you're working alone like that? Do you have like techniques, or do you get on like a video thing like this with other artists and just draw with them?
Yeah, I don't really talk to other artists too much. I only talk to them when I see people at shows. It's really about just maintaining the discipline of like working even when you're freaked out or not liking what you're doing, and just pushing through it, because discipline is the only thing that's going to deliver you an on-time product, whether or not you're happy with it or not. And I'm usually not happy with something because of the time, or because of the layout, or because of the mandates from editorial that they want me to put in there. It's just like, well, I don't really want to do that, but I agreed to do the job. So you just try to make the best lemonade you can. I mean, the best jobs are the ones that people just empower you and let you kind of do your own thing, because I'm a firm believer in, like, if you buy a fast car, well, let fast cars go fast. That's what they do. So, you don't need to park it in your garage and show it to all your friends. It's just kind of like, it's kind of a waste of what that machine is meant to do. So, but everything in comics now is a brand, and you have to, it goes before committee, and they pick the best one, and you're like, that's why I'm always trying to be cautious now of not submitting layouts I don't want to draw, because usually they pick out the layout that you don't want to do, or the one you like the least. And it's like, well, make sure you like them all. And sometimes I get wrapped up in, I know I do, I get wrapped up in like, well, delivering more is better. And it's not necessarily better, because it's like, well, it's only 2 layouts and it's 2 layouts. And sometimes I was like, well, I'll just do a third. Like, yeah, fuck it. Here's a third. And they're like, oh, well, we want that one right there. I'm like, oh, why? That one sucks. And they're like, no, it's great. And I'm like, no, there's so many limitations on it. Like, what do you mean? Like, well, where are you going to put the title header? Like, oh, well, can you shrink these elements? I'm like, well, that changes the whole thing. Like, so, yeah, it's just because I think in your head you have certain visions of it, and you always want to kind of execute. And sometimes what's on the stands is not always matching what's in your head either, because you're just like, oh, it could have been this, and they settled for that, and you're like, all right, well, whatever. Better luck next time, So, yeah.
Have you ever done a cover or interior work where you walked away and said, that's exactly how I wanted it to come out? Or do you, because I feel like there might be a little bit of a perfectionist type thing there.
No, because I always want to be a better artist than I am.
Yeah.
Because like, if I'm trying to figure out like Dan Mora's work, I'm like, God, how he executes these lines need to look like this. And I think that's kind of a destructive way to think, because it doesn't allow me to make mistakes. It's making me be exact and trying to figure it out, like how he does what he does, or how he builds structure. I'm trying to be too much of a slave to it sometimes. And it's like, there's many a paper that ends up in the garbage can, because my wife's like, what's going on in there? And she'll hear something tear up, like, I'm cursing. I'm like, damn it, start over again on it. And I think the thing about it is, I think I need to cut myself a break a little bit. Just when you're studying other guys, it's your interpretation of what their work is, not their work exact, and that's the thing. I think I think, the thing that most artists, and we all at some point wrestle with, is that imposter syndrome. We always want to be as good as our heroes, and then we're comparing our work to our heroes, which is a bad thing. You want to lift up your work and say, is it in the same stratosphere or ballpark is an okay, healthy thing as far as having a bar. But, you know, if I'm not drawing an eyeball just like, you know, the way I want to draw an eyeball or something like that, like, you know, you should kind of cut yourself a break. But oftentimes I don't, because that's the first thing I see when I'm looking at that, like, is how jacked up that eyeball is. And everyone's like, it looks fine. What's wrong with you? So, yeah.
I wonder though, I mean, that could be one of the keys to your success though, right? Is that drive, even though you never reach what you would maybe think perfection is, that drive toward it constantly allows you to learn and allows you to be at the top of your game.
Maybe. I think it's just, for me, I'm always trying to compete with the ghosts of my heroes, like, you know, Arthur Adams and Michael Golden, Joe Madureira, like, you know, Dan Mora, all these guys that whose work I enjoy. I'm always kind of lifting up what I'm doing. I'm like, hey, is this kind of in the same ballpark, in the same stratosphere? Because there's so many talented people now, and they're coming in younger and younger too, you know, so because they had better tools than we did growing up, you know, back in the day. So they're learning things a lot younger, a lot faster, and they have this special brush, if they work digital, that does all these amazing things. You know, so that's what you're up against. So you should have a high standard for your work, because I think once you start checking out on it, it's very easy to start checking out on everything. And you, at the end of the day, you're really responsible for yourself. And if you're not getting the jobs you used to, or you're not as successful as you used to be, then you really need to look at yourself and say, well, why is that? Because I'm responsible for it. So am I not delivering on a certain level of quality or detail or whatever? You need to really assess that, you know, because at the end of the day, it's you're responsible for your success or not. So for me, I always want to be relevant in my own mind as far as the work that I'm doing. You know, the first person I want to please is myself as far as the work I'm doing. And people have a lot of choice. And if I'm not delivering work that is making people buy that issue, I feel like I'm not doing my job as an artist, because that's why I get hired. This is why they're like, hey, we want you to do this cover because, you know, people like your work. I'm like, okay, well, you know, you never want to kind of check out on that. And I know a lot of guys now I've seen have dropped off or are doing the same style or doing the same thing, and not to make judgments, and like that's fine for them and that's okay for them. But for me, I don't want that. I always want to continue to improve and change and just evolve. We're like, you know, our Pokemon. Are you content with being Charmander the rest of your life, or do you want to keep, you know, you want to move on to Charizard or whatever that next level is, you know? So I'm more in that field where I'm constantly trying to get better and improve and, you know, to kind of get there, you know, and it's just, it's a never ending journey. So
I don't know. Oh, go ahead, please.
No, go ahead. No.
I was just gonna say, I don't know if this will help or not, but I was at my comic book shop yesterday, obviously Wednesday, picking up my comics, and I mentioned that I had opportunity to be with you tonight. And he goes, and his name's Ambrose. He owns a comic store here in Southern California called Diggers Comics and Collectibles. And he goes, you tell Jonboy, if I have a cover of his, it's gone immediately. Like I can't.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
He wanted me to tell you that, but
that's cool. I appreciate that. That's really nice. Yeah, it means I'm doing my job. I'm doing it right. It's just like, it means somewhere down the line, I'm gonna have to ask for an increase on my page rate again.
There you go. There you go.
And I make a little more money, because like no one reports numbers anymore. So I used to be able to pull numbers on icbdo.com when my covers come out and say, hey, look, man, like of that sales thing, I know I sold probably like, you know, X amount on that. Like, hey, can I like bump up my rate? And, you know, so it's that's a weird thing about it too, because every time I've asked for a raise, usually like it's never been a problem, but some editors come back and say, well, why don't you just sell the original? I'm like, okay, so I was like, you don't have, the idea is not to have to sell the original. The idea is to actually make more of a livable wage on the work that's actually being published, instead of just having to sell the original if I don't want to. Because I never want to be that guy who like, I mean, I got into that where I had to sell a lot of my Spawn covers because of that. And I needed the money, and I regretted it, because people turn around and flip that all the time now. And I see it, and I'm just like, it's and I sold it because I had to survive, and then that's not a good feeling, and then people turn around and sell that for like 10 times what they paid for it, and you're just like, fuckers. It's the worst feeling ever. But it's like, the thing about it is like, I'm learning now that don't sell art if you don't want, if you don't want to or have to, because there's other ways to make money. I can just do commissions or something like that, and I think that was a better alternative for me. But sometimes you just need cash, and you're like, well, I haven't worked and I need to make money, and that's the thing of a struggling artist too. Where I'll like I talked to Scott Williams about it. That cover that sold for like $250,000, the Captain America Wolverine Black Widow thing that he sold for like, I think 800 some odd bucks, like, sold for that. And it's just like,
oh, that has to hurt so bad.
Well, I think the right thing is to throw the artist a little bit of money, even though Scott's not hurting for money. It's the idea that you've made 10,000 or 1,000,000% markup, and it's like, well, good for you, but it's like, there should be something in there for the artist, because we are the group that is constantly being exploited, constantly at every turn usually, and now with AI even more so. So, it's the idea that if there's a resale on something, like, hey, the artist should be, maybe it'd be nice to give the artist like something like, hey man, you know what, like, hey, I made 250,000 on this. Hey, I'm just gonna, after taxes, I'm getting 125,000. Hey man, here's 20 grand. Or here's this. You know what I mean? It's like, you're still getting your money. At least for me, if I did that, I would do that. But I guess that's just me. Maybe I'm the dumb one, but I don't know. I'm always thinking, like, I always talk to my friends all the time, and we're all freelance, and there's no retirement account. Your retirement account is your retirement pages, things that you want to hold on to until you absolutely have to part with them. But we don't have pensions, we don't have anything like that, so it's a little more challenging for us, I think. So there's got to be something. We don't have a union, we don't have anything like that. And I don't think comics will ever unionize, because there's too many scabs that undercut other artists all the time on jobs. So,
well, it's a global, you know what I mean? It's just, there's so many artists now coming. Brazil is just pumping out artists left and right. Philippines, it just,
they're all great artists
amazing artists.
Yeah, they're amazing, but globalization has destroyed the American artist as far as working in comics, because by necessity they want to go with the cheapest talent. And if I lived in Brazil, I'm sure my page rate would make me a very rich man there. But being here in the U.S., you're subject to inflation. I'm in the Bay Area, so it's probably the second highest place to live in the country, and I'm not here by choice. It's just because my wife works in tech and we have to be here. So, but I mean, there's all these things that work into it. So globalization works in favor of some people and works against it in others. So I just wish there was a better way to equalize things, but it's the state of the market. I think with Marvel and DC being owned by larger parent companies, the money they make gets distributed through those larger companies. They don't get to keep all that. So I think if they were independent entities, to be honest with you, they would actually, the comics market would be in better shape. The page rates would be better. The stories would be better. The content would be much better, I think, if they were independently owned, because all that money that they would self-generate would go back into the company. So
fully agree.
This is what happens when things get eaten up by other monopolies. It's just like, it's the illusion of choice, but it actually hurts the market in the long run. So,
And I would think, is this your 23rd, 24th year as a professional?
Professionally, well, if you're counting my indie years, there's about 5 years of indie years, almost 28 years. So almost 30 years. Yeah, like I did free stuff. I did stuff for Kirkman and for Funkatron for like almost 5 years, and I just worked for anybody, just try to get published. So
so I think if you were to consider from when you started to where it is now, things more difficult or things easier as you mature in your career being an artist in this industry?
Well, I'm definitely a lot wiser. I've made a lot of mistakes, and I'm thankfully I'm making new mistakes, not the same ones. So I'm always learning. I think I think the market's just different, but there's still a way to make money in the market. The thing is, you got to take personal responsibility for your career. You can't blame the market or this publisher or you lost out or this guy undercut you or whatever. I think there's always a means for you to make money in this market, whether you're doing your own content because publishing is decentralized. You can do sketch covers, you can do sketchbooks, you can crowdfund, kickstart, whatever, Indiegogo, create your own thing, or you can do commissions and sell them for yourself online. There's so many ways to create revenue streams for yourself. The thing about it is you kind of have to take responsibility for that on yourself and make time to do that type of work in order to make money, because you always have to have a financial goal for yourself. And a lot of guys I talk to don't really know or have any goals month to month of what they want to do or where they want to go with their career. It's more of like you're either working comics or comics are working you. And usually most people are getting worked by comics and worked to the point of burnout where, they don't have a plan. And then when the work dries up, they don't know what to do and they blame the market instead of blaming themselves. You have to take control of your own career and figure out what you want to do. And when things get lean, if you don't want to sell your pages, then do commissions, do sketch covers, do remarks, do shows. Have a different way of making money for yourself, because at the end of the day, like whatever financial situation you're in, like, I was in a situation where I was working for two major publishers and they were basically jerking me around on my contract. And I think one publisher I was exclusive for, and I didn't get a check for almost 6 months.
Wow.
Well, for being exclusive, but then 3 months prior to that, so I was 9 months on a job, quote unquote, for them, and I couldn't work for anybody else, but I didn't get a check during that whole time.
Wow.
And then I went to another company and told them, like, hey, look, can we avoid this? Like, oh yeah, no problem. But then they jerked me around for another 4 months, and I'm just like, okay, I can't do this. Like, I've learned a lot and I made a lot of mistakes, but I now know kind of what to look for. And if these things happen again, then I hope they don't happen. I don't think I'd allow it. My wife did definitely not allow it. But I have different ways now of monetizing and doing things now. Like, oh, well, you know what? I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to work on a creator own and put out my own creator own book until you guys get your act together. Or I'm going to do commissions, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. So because at the end of the day, regardless of your situation, it's still your situation and you have to provide and you've got responsibilities and you still gotta meet those needs. And it made me realize going through all of that I need to take responsibility and figure that out for myself. I can't keep waiting for the publisher to figure that out because obviously they're not going to do it. You know what I mean? Like, well, hey, we got this jerk off for 8 issues a year and we're only going to pay him for 3, or whatever. So, it's you can't pin that back, because even if you have a contract, that honestly doesn't guarantee you anything, because you could sue. What was told to me is you could sue and you will probably win, but you'll probably never work for us ever again. Yeah. And you're like, well, is it really worth it? And it's like, you know what? Just move on. That's it. So yeah.
Wow. Well, maybe we could go back a little bit in your career, Jonboy. When you first broke into comics, what were your favorite comics at that time that you had? Like, you really, like, if I ever get a chance, this is who I want to draw. And were you able to accomplish that goal?
No, because usually when you're kind of like up and comer and you're like looking for work, it's pretty much you take whatever they offer. So it's like, hey, and I got offered mainly like the kids line of Spider-Man, but in my mind I was like, okay, this is the real Spider-Man. So I try to treat it as such, and try to do the best I can. I think with every job, you just take it as an opportunity to try to get your work out there, try to make an impression on readers and do a good job and be on time. The main thing is being on time. Who told me this? Okay, the 3 things for an artist always when you're on a job is be on time, don't be difficult, and make it look good. And it's in that order, right? So be on time with your work. Try not to be difficult during that whole time working with the editor or with the team. And then and the third thing is make it look good, right? So if you have all these things, then you're okay, right? Yeah. So, but even now, like with publishing, it's so down to the wire. So many jobs I had where we're like, hey, you know, well, this is, we used to be like 3 months ahead of schedule, like when I first started, and now it's like I'm working up to like 2 days before print. You know what I mean? It's really weird how things have kind of derailed. Yeah. Well, it's because it's more top down now, so it's the editorial end. They have more control. They're like brand managers now, and that's what's causing all these issues because the narratives have to be right, and they have to do. By the time the artist gets it, it's like you barely have time to draw it. So that's a big frustration of mine. I think it's just like there's so much spent on the story that the art is just like, well, what do you want me to do with it? You're giving me 3 weeks to do 20 pages. Are you out of your mind?
Wow.
Because there's no way I'm going to make this look good. And for me, I won't sacrifice quality to hit somebody's lack of planning. You know, that's not my problem. You know, it's like, hey, look, I'll do the work. You have to find someone else to do these other pages. How many pages you want to do? I was like, I will do 7. That's it. You know, or I will do 10 or whatever the number is. So I rather do quality pages than mailing something I'm not proud of, you know? So, and I'm also learning too, that if I can't pick the colorist, I'm not going to do the job. So,
I mean, that affects your art, right? I mean, that's a huge
I did this job at DC and I wanted to work with this one guy, and he put his C team. He didn't even do anything on it. I think he put his C team of guys on it. I was looking at it like, man, I could have colored this myself and done a better job. And the whole point was working with this guy because I really liked his work. And I'm just like, man, never again, man.
Yeah.
Because you want to manage what your brand looks like going out. And for me, I can't even look at that stuff, man. It's just like, oh, it's so bad. I'm just like, dude, like, what did you do? Like in my mind, I know what looks good on me. And when I see something that doesn't look good, I'm like, dude, this looks like shit.
Yeah.
And you can't really tell the guy it looks like shit because his feelings will get hurt.
Yeah.
And then they get called out on social media like, oh yeah, you're so unprofessional. And I'm just like dude,
Jonboy must not have been into this one, man. It's not a normal year. And then you get blamed for it though, right?
Well, you kind of do, but the thing about it is like there's 2 types of mentalities I think that are in the industry. It's where if I get hired for a job, you're going to get the best me regardless of what rate I agree to do it at. If I agree to do it for $100, I'm still going to do it whether or not I'm getting $100 or $2,000 or whatever amount it is. Yeah. Other guys won't do that. I've noticed, like they'll like, oh well, pays a C rate. Oh well, I'll get my assistant to do it. I'll just come in and look at it like, yeah, that's fine, you know, and get it out the door. So that therein lies the difference. For me, I try to maintain a quality bar regardless of the rate. Where I think other guys, it's kind of a sliding scale, and there's no right or wrong answer. I think for me, I don't like working with guys like that, and I don't want to work like that because for me, the end product is the customer, and the customer needs to feel like they got their money's worth. Because, you know, if when I do ship my courier on, I want people to know that, hey, they're going to get a quality product. Like, hey, I'm going to get my money's worth out of this. It's going to look good. It's going to have a certain standard. So, and you can't really buy that. You know, it's your reputation at that point. And the thing is, if you mail something in and then people are like, you know.
Yeah.
And we've all come to that point where we've had something that we let go that we just weren't happy with, but it's just, and if I could go back and redo it, I'd be like, I'd redo it, you know, but it kind of is what it is, man. So
yeah. When you look at your career, Jonboy, and you look at all the things that you have worked on, is there one item throughout all of that, or maybe a couple items you're like, that's the one thing that I'm most proud of that I've been able to do? Or is that not even part of your thought process?
It's not really part of my thought process. I think there are benchmark things of people I want to work with. Like I got to work with Joe Madureira. I did some Battle Chaser stuff. I got to work with Todd McFarlane on Spawn. I got to work on Teen Titans, which is probably my favorite like teen book. I love the Teen Titans, even though it was probably the worst situation working on Teen Titans. But
really?
you just do the best you can with what you got, you know. No, I think it's more about like trying to work with your heroes and people you respect and try to create content that, you know, will resonate with people, because all that matters in this industry is what you create.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, I want to create and I want to add my ideas onto things. I don't want to be an extension of a writer. I want to be part of a team that delivers something that, like, you know, when they talk about runs, like, hey, you know, I want to do something unique with a character and put my stamp on it. I don't want to do something that's just kind of forgettable. And a lot of runs are kind of forgettable, which is kind of sad because these are really talented teams, but you're not letting this team do something that's completely unique with an IP. You know, like, hey, let's put our stamp on Batman. Let's do this. Let's change that. You know, you want to take some chances and some risks on things because you want to do something that's different, that's going to resonate with people, you know, and those types of opportunities sometimes are few and far between because it's so brand managed down. And I understand why they do that, you know, because they have their ideas of where things should go and where it fits within their universe. But I think the best things, the best stories, the best comics are team driven, like artist, writer, colorist, letterer, all talking and saying, hey, what do we want to do that's different? This is what we're thinking. What are your ideas? What do you guys want to see on, like, Spider-Man that hasn't been done, that because we all like Spider-Man, we all read it. What is something that we want to do that's different? Like, what do we see, you know? And, you know, I think it's something more like that, you know, and doing something different and making that relevant and making that a thing, you know, instead of just another, Spider-Man and love triangle or this, or he fights Venom again, you know, and it's just like, you know, it's like kids play with action figures. At some point, you kind of want something more, and you want to elevate something. Like for me, I always want to work on something, try to elevate the brand or do something cool with it instead of just like treating it like it's just kind of bottom something, because that IP you're working on is someone's favorite book, and you want to treat it with respect, because when you do that, those fans who love that character, it really resonates with them. And plus too, it's like, then, you know, it makes you feel good because you don't necessarily, like, I don't necessarily like certain characters, but then, you know, I did something with that character I don't like because I know it's someone's favorite character that they really, really enjoy, you know. And I mean, there are certain characters I just have a tough time with, like Green Arrow. Like, I got offered a cover run on Green Arrow, and I'm just like, I can't do it. The editor got a little upset, and I didn't get any work from DC for a while after that. So, but the thing is, like, if I don't think I could do a good job on something, I don't take the job, you know, because like there's only so many Green Arrow covers I probably have in me, maybe one or two, but I'm not going to have like 5 or 6 of them. I'm like, dude, I was like, can I just do them all of Black Canary? And they're like, are you serious? I was like, yeah, I'm serious. Because they're like, why? I was like, because Oliver Queen is not an interesting character to me. He's not a, you know, I don't think many people have figured him out too much. I think the writer who did was probably Ben Percy on his Rebirth run, which is actually decent. But that was the stories, it was a man against the system. They were very small, self-contained stories, where they're very street level stories, which was fine. But he just never struck me, the character never struck me as a grand character. I like Hawkeye, and I would do tons of Hawkeye covers, but I don't like
got a great personality, right?
Well, like
Hawkeye compared to
Hawkeye is, well, because like I think the problem with Green Arrow is you're making him street level, and then but you're kind of trying to make him a street level, but he's Bruce Wayne, but he's street level. It's just kind of, it does not compute here. It doesn't. I don't know. It just, for me, it just, nothing's clicked for me with that character, and I just can't. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to do disservice to people who love that character, and I think I have maybe 1 or 2 good images in my mind I could do. But it just, like, I don't know if I could constantly deliver on something I would be happy with. You know? So,
you know, at New York Comic Con last year, Todd had announced all these amazing Spawn stories that are coming out. So We got, I think, 10 different titles this year. I think 6 of the titles are going to be like 4-part series. Is there a chance that you might get back on Spawn with all these new titles coming?
When I left Spawn, Todd told me I was dead to him, so I don't think he could open the door. But like he's always been really great. Stop by, we hug each other and have chit chat and everything. So, but I mean, there's so many talented artists out there that can contribute to Spawn. Like I did it for 2 years, so I would love to be able to revisit with Paul Jenkins and finish out our run properly. But no, I think I've been there and had fun with that title, and all the stuff that Paul and I did, we laid the groundwork for what's happening now. And a lot of those storylines and things that we kind of seeded with Todd early on are kind of bubbling through in other stories now. So whether Todd remembers it or not, but I think my only regret was that we never got a chance to make Wanda, because she dies we kill her, but then the idea, and that there was supposed to be Son of Spawn, who's in heaven, who is like the unborn dead child of Al Simmons, who actually becomes like a heavenly Spawn. Then we wanted to do that. So it's like father and son. It's kind of cool, right? Where he has like this kind of sidekick that, it's his son. And we also wanted to bring Wanda back as like an Angela type character. We wanted to give him Angela back in some fashion, and we wanted to do that where she goes to heaven and she becomes like kind of like an Angela character. And we never got to do that, and that's something we really wanted to do. So maybe someday that would happen. I don't know. But maybe Todd will take that idea and then make that happen, because we didn't want her to kind of disappear. We wanted to kill her in order to bring Wanda back into Spawn's and Al's life so they can actually be together. And that was the whole point, because we wanted to give that character a happy ending. We didn't want him to be burnt up anymore. We didn't want him to have a power limit. We wanted to make him a human flesh and blood character again with all this power. And I think that's kind of what he is now. I don't know, that maybe that's changed some.
Yeah, a little bit for sure. Yeah. So, I think a little bit of that transition has taken place for sure.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. I always had this idea in my mind. I called it Spawn 3000 in my head, where it's where it's Al Simmons as Spawn in the future, and he's the only magical creature in a world full of technology. You know, so, and kind of how that plays out would be kind of cool. But I mean, it's Todd's thing to do whatever he wants with. I think the great thing about it is, if I want to actually do that story, I could do it. I just make it my own thing and call it something else. But I don't know. I'd never say never on certain projects. I think it would be more about getting the team back together. And I don't know if Paul would be up for another go at Spawn, or we'd have to have our come to Jesus moment where all of us are in a room. We're like, hey, look, like, let's get this worked out now, so everyone plays nice and we're all so
you were talking earlier about for you how important it is that you work within a team, right? Writer, artist, colorist, letterer. Do you find that's easier to do today because of that corporate structure and the big two and the independent side versus the other side?
Well, I think independent, you're still talking as a team, but then you still have editorial involved and doing their mandates, especially if it's their book. But things are so top down and kind of sanitized that very few, in my opinion, in my experience that I've had, like very few people actually get to where the team actually gets to pitch their idea and do something that they want to do. And very often than not, it serves more of the writer than it does the rest of the team, which I don't like at all, because I view us as the team. Like, we come first as a group. Like, you can't, but that type of thing is very counter these days, I think. And I don't want to work on comics that are structured like that. But I don't have a say in what's going on in the story and trying to do something that's cool and interesting, then why even waste my time? Because then at that point, it's just a check, and I can work for anybody at that point. It's like, well, are we doing anything that's interesting? And am I going to have feedback in this? Am I going to be able to participate? Treat me like an adult here, or am I just going to be just a tool in the hands of a writer? And that's not very collaborative. That's and it's not very interesting, because I think you have to approach it like I approach it as a fan too, because I love Thor, I love all these books, I love Hulk, I love Batman, and I want to be able to add my own creative thoughts and ideas to that aesthetic, to try to change things too, to add my own ideas. And to be denied that is like, well, like, okay, you want me to draw it, you want me to be excited about this and involved in this, then this is how I need to participate. And if it doesn't, then it's probably not for me, And, which is fine. I think there's plenty of other guys who are like, yeah, I'll do it in a minute, But I think we all want to do something where we're adding to the meta of whatever that character is, because we grew up with those. I grew up with, like, Norm Brayfogle and Alan Grant and Alan Davis and Mike Barr and Steve Englehart and Marshall Rogers, like all these great guys who worked on Batman. Chip Zdarsky and Jorge Jimenez. They're doing this stuff. And they're doing what they really want to, kind of quote unquote, what they want to do with the character to a certain extent. And they're putting their indelible mark on that character. And as a creator, I want to do that as well. Like, that's something that is interesting to me. I want to work with a writer to do something like that, to add my own ideas, to do something that's a little out of the box and something that's fresh and new. Because if not, you're just kind of regurgitating or recycling older stories. And it's just like, oh man, it's just like we owe it to readers to do better and be better, I think, as creators, and I think companies should try to do better for the industry in order to do that. Like, it's there if you want to, and I think it's whether or not they want to or not. But it's a thing about it about giving up control.
Yeah,
I think it's supervised control. Like, hey, let us pitch our idea and then kind of reel us in on a couple elements. But at the end of the day, if we have our pitch and our Bible, this is what we're doing for the next 10 issues or 12, the first 2 arcs. Like it or not, like, this is what you're getting. So, because you want to be, I want to be invested in things I'm working on, because like the greatest thing that we have in this world, whether we're rich or poor, we're all given the same amount of time, and it's how you spend your time. And I don't want to spend my time on projects I don't care about if I don't have a voice on it, because it's like, what's the point? Well, I'd rather work on my own things I have a voice on, or I'd rather do these things instead. At least I have more control over what I want to put into it, and I mean, if it's about money, it's just, you can do anything to make money, so it's not about that. It's about doing things that you're passionate about and things that you want to contribute to. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about. I want to have fun doing that. I want to give readers something they can be excited about, instead of kind of like the same stuff. It's like, I think there's a lot of things that feel the same in comics. It's kind of a sad thing. So, and I don't want to be this to be negative or anything like that. I just think
no. I mean, I think it's super interesting to see from your perspective how you see things, Jonboy, because you've been in the industry for a long time. You have amazing experience. I feel, obviously as a comic book reader, I don't have your talent, but I feel like you're at the top of your game when I see.
Oh, really? Oh, thanks. That's right.
Yeah, but
I don't think I am.
I mean, your perspective is, so important to get out there as well. And I love that you're being so transparent and honest. I think, anyone that's listening that wants to get into comics as an artist, I mean, there's good and there's bad to every profession that you get into. And it's good that you have kind of a good view of both sides of that before you dive in head first saying, I want to make a career out of this, right? Because, not everything's beautiful in anything that you do. I'm in the grocery industry. I can tell you there's things I hate about and there's things that I love about it, but I've been doing it for 30 years, right?
But you're part of a process that when you got into it, you're like, I can make this better. Like I grew up drawing my own comic books, and it's just like, well, I drew my own Batman comics or my own Wolverine comics. I'm like, I would love to do something where I'm adding to this official thing for this character. I want to be part of that instead of just something that's kind of throwaway or will be rebooted, because it's like, you want I guess for me, it's just like you want to do work that actually matters, that resonates with fans, that people get really excited about, because that lends to a much healthier industry. Because if I can do a good job and we can do a good job as a team and deliver a great product and great art and great story, I believe that fans will show up. People will show up for it. It will catch on, and people will be like, and that will be a sales thing, you know, and it's just, I think, you know, you just finding the right people who will trust you to do that, you know, is always kind of a challenge, because, you know, when they look at you, they always kind of look at you kind of sideways, like, well, you're just an artist, you know, and it's just like, dude, like, no, like, you know, a lot of those things on Spawn were early on, were the three of us sitting down, like Todd, Paul, and myself, and we were all talking about our ideas. Then Todd's like, okay, well, you know, do whatever you want. We're like, okay. And then Paul's like, well, what do you want to see? What do you want to get? I was like, dude, I want to do this. He's like, okay, cool. We're not going to get there that fast, but we'll get there after this arc. We'll get there. We'll start seeding these things in. So, you know, I mean, if you're reading my arc, there was this whole thing where, you know, cats and dogs were like, you know, every time God was around, he's a dog, and every time Satan was around, he's a cat, you know, and we were seeding the return of the new Violator, and it wasn't a big fat chubby guy. He was like this kind of punk rocker dude, you know, and they kind of let that go. And it's just like, come on, man. I have this redesign for Violator somewhere. I have to find on my computer because like my old hard drive crashed, so I got to find it. But it's just like, it's this really cool, awesome Violator that no one will ever get to see. It's like,
no one's ever seen it before.
I think Todd saw it at some point. And he was like,
easy to see, Jonboy. That'd be incredible, man.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I gotta find it. So it's on a drive somewhere. Just gotta dig it out. But yeah, I just that we never got to do it. There's so many cool things we wanted to do, you know, and man, like, because I kept telling Todd, like, Raven Spawn was my favorite spawn. I'm like, look, dude, you've got all these spawns that you made toys of. Bring them all back and let it be like Highlander, where there's like the power's cut off in order to survive. And you can steal other spawns' powers. That's how you become stronger. And then you become a Highlander thing where there's good spawns and bad spawns. And he's done something like that now, where there's good spawns and bad spawns. So he's kind of picking up those threads and doing his own thing with it, which is cool. I just think our idea would have been cooler, but you know, I mean, that's the thing about comics, is if you don't get it the first time, at some point in your career, it'll come back around and you'll probably get to do it. So it's like, okay, cool. Well, you know, it's not going to happen here, but maybe 10 years from now it might. So who knows?
So, you never know, right? You never know.
You never know. So, yeah. And I think the thing about it is, I think fans would be excited about it too. You know, you want to do something different with the IP. You always want to do something different with the IP. You don't want to rehash what's already been done. So for me, that's persona non grata. You don't touch that. You're like, okay, well, what haven't we done with this character? And that's a thing that Paul was so keen on too. It was like, well, hey, you know, what if we give him his unborn son to make Wanda Angela? We bring all this stuff back. I'm like, yeah, I'd love to do, like, bring Angela back and make it Wanda. And it's him and it's kind of like his whole family's together again. He has his dead son that's there. His wife is there, and they're all like, hey, we're all together saving the world. Like, how cool is that? Like, it's this whole different level of this whole different narrative that we're putting on Spawn that hasn't been seen by readers. And but it all makes sense, and it's all cool, and it's all grand, but it adds a different layer to that character, because then you get to see Al Simmons hero with Wanda hero, son hero, and this whole family dynamic, you know, that's kind of going on, and he's getting to spend time with his family, and he's getting to be a father and getting to be a husband. And then how does he feel when his family's actually in danger, and what is he going to do? And the stakes are different. You know, it's more of a family aspect angle that we're trying to kind of eventually get to in Spawn, versus where it's just he's fighting evil and it's fighting demons again, you know. And it's just like, well, you got to add a different wrinkle to that, you know. And we were really trying to push the family dynamic on that. Okay, you know, if we give Al a family, not a surrogate family, an actual family, it would be cool. It would be cool. So
it would be.
Yeah, someday. So
someday.
So,
never know. You never know. Maybe you'll get that opportunity. Is there things that you're working on right now from an independent standpoint that is your own that might be coming out this year? Or there is, maybe you're not able to talk about it, but
no, I'm working on a creator-owned project called Princess Dragon Killer. I've been working off and on now for 15 years. So I'm hopefully going to launch it this year. Like come the month of June, I'm not working on anything else but that. So I'm trying to wrap that up. So then I'm also doing a Kickstarter, which is starting in next month.
Oh,
so
wow.
It launches May 15th. So I'll be doing volume 1. Maybe I can come back on the show and I can maybe send you a copy and we can like, hey, talk about it. Like, hey,
that would be amazing, John Boy. That would be incredible. But May 15th, I'll put that down below when we post this. That way, you don't have anything built yet in Kickstarter for it yet. Where
not yet. I actually shot a lot of my promos for that, and we're putting that together. The book is done. There's a couple tiers that we're waiting on, but then I gotta just upload everything to Kickstarter and start promoting. I didn't want to promote too early. Last time I did it like 45 days, and I just felt like every day I was talking about it. I kind of want to just do a drop a couple of days before it goes, and that way people jump on the excitement. Like I'm only going to ask, I think maybe $4,000 or $5,000 to get it to funds. So
wow, okay,
yeah, so it's very low. It's like, hey, look, I'm like, I definitely want to make the book happen. So, so I'm doing that, and then I've got a couple Transformers covers that I'm going to be dropping in June, and then July. So one for
those will go fast, man. Those are going to go so fast.
I hope so. I hope it's my own retailer cover. It's Fan Expo Dallas is when we're launching it. That's going to be exclusive there, and then we've got something for San Diego Comic-Con that's going to be an exclusive there. So, so we're going to be launching those. So I've got a couple issues on that, and then October I've got something that I'm working on with one of my buddies. That's supposed to be like a Halloween thing that I can't talk about just yet. So. That I've been working on right now. And that thing's been like, it's a jam cover. So we're doing things together, but it's just, when we have two different artists, have two different sensibilities, and you're trying to come up with a layout that makes sense, it's really freaking hard because my thing is more fun stuff and his is more sexy. And I'm like, I can't do sexy to sex. Like that's not how I'm wired. Like I'll make the characters attractive, but like, as far as like, I just don't. That's not my default. I like fun and kind of energetic stuff. I like stuff like that where, like, sexy is not really in my like vernacular when I'm doing characters. It just doesn't like. It's really hard for me. Like, make her sexy, and it's like, well, I could put her in a sexy pose, but then like, just you don't want to make it. I guess what I'm saying is when you do those types of things. And you're doing something where you're kind of having attractive women on it, there's things that you want to do, but you don't want to do at the same time, because it's like, well, you don't want it to be pandering and you want to treat it respectfully, because the thing is, I don't want to be ashamed to show my wife something. If I show her that, she's looking like, really, dude? Like, what are you, like 14? I'm like, you don't want that. And you also don't want to do stuff that other people have already done. As far as, because the bad girl sexy thing has been kind of done and exploited, and you don't want to be kind of lumped in with that either, because there's a lot of good stuff in it, but there's also a lot of like kind of garbage too, and we want to do something that people haven't seen. Again, like it always goes back for me to like, what are you going to do that's different? And that's why it's so nerve-wracking for me, because I'm always trying to do something that's a little different than what other people have done. Like, okay, well, you're going to do a Spider-Man swinging thing in the city. Well, if you're going to do that, like in my mind, like, what are you going to do that's different, that makes it different from every other web slinging thing you've seen? Like, you don't want to do something that's already been done. You want to try to do something that's kind of unique and kind of cool, but also like something that when people see, like, oh, I haven't seen that. It's really cool. I'm going to pick that up. That's the trick. That's the trick when you're doing covers, is you don't want to go down the road that's well traveled. You want to go kind of carve out your own path, but that's a lot of work. There's a lot of like cursing and like doubting yourself and a lot of sketches and hours and hours and hours of like trying to figure out like, freaking Spider-Man's in the city and make it unique. It's all this stuff, but you really want to, like, for me, it's really important to just try to deliver something that's a little different than what people have seen. Because the idea is you want to make people pick up that cover. That is your job as a cover artist. You gotta grab people's attention. You gotta make people want to pick it up. Because if you don't, then it's like, well, why did they hire you? If your B cover is not outselling the A cover, there's something wrong with you. That means you did not do your job. You did not. Because the B cover is $1 more. It's a premium cover. It's on better stock. And if your job is to try to upsell that, so the book continues, it hits their numbers. So, it's things that you always want to consider when you're working on stuff too. And I think it's good to put that pressure on yourself, because there's a pressure to deliver a higher level of work or trying to do something that people haven't seen. So I think at the end of the day, all that matters is what you create as a creator. And I just want to make sure that I'm putting out stuff that is, like, in my mind, like, good, at least like people are happy with it. And it's like, oh yeah, this is a great cover. Like, okay, cool. Like, all right, mission accomplished. So.
Is there a title or a cover you haven't done yet that you hope you get an opportunity to do? Just because the character or something about it, you're like, man, this really fits my style.
I would love to do more Batman covers. Where it's just Batman. I don't have to put Batman with another character or anything like that. That would be great. I'd love to do Captain America covers, because Cap is my first comic book. So my first superhero comic. So I've never had an opportunity to do a Captain America thing, really. So I guess I could ask, but like my schedule is going to close up here come June. So after May, I don't really want to do a lot of work. I want to just, because I'm going to live off my Kickstarter money. Hopefully it does really well. Fingers crossed. And that way I can finish up my creator on and kind of get that out. Because I think at some point, you want to tell your own stories. You want to put your own thing out, and you want to see, like, well, if I put out a book, would it be well received? Would people like it? Okay, let me try it and see what happens. So, and plus, it's your own thing. So there's a whole other levels of habits and disciplines you have to adopt in order to make that happen, to where you have to switch, where you're self-motivating yourself. It's not like, oh, I'm not holding up an editorial team or anything like that. It's more like, okay, well, now I have to do and deliver on this, and what is that going to look like? So that's a whole other different type of thinking that I haven't had since, like, I left Inhumans, which was like, I think 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, maybe 4. I don't know. It's been a while. So
does it feel good to get back to that?
Like, I think if you're working in comics, you should do comics. You should actually tell stories. So like, I've done some small stuff here and there for DC and for Dynamite, where I did some short stories and things like that, which is a lot of fun. But it's nice to actually get back into, because it's a whole different level of thinking sequentially versus thinking for one image. Everything you want to say about the characters in one image, but for comics, though, there's a lot of stuff that happens in between the panels. So getting back to that type of thinking is a different type of mindset. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a while, so it's going to really stretch me, which is exciting. So check back with me in 6 months. I'll be like, oh, this freaking book, So, but I think that's the thing is, everything that you do and everything that you take on, and you want to take on new challenges, and you want to be challenged, because in those challenges, there's a lot of room for personal growth, not just for your work, but you as a human being too, because then it keeps you humble, like telling your own stories, it keeps you humble, because you have to, like, oh shit, like I've got to, oh man, doing comics are hard. It is hard work, and you have a whole level of respect for things when you're doing that and trying to keep a quality level and a quality bar up too. It's very challenging. So yeah.
Incredible. Where could people find you? I know you were at WonderCon. Are you going to C2E2 this weekend or no?
No, so I was supposed to be in Calgary this weekend, but
Calgary is a big one too, right?
Yeah, well, Todd's going to be there, which is kind of
Yeah.
like, oh, they announced Todd's like, oh, I'm not going. So I canceled on that. I had to cancel on that. I have a wedding I have to go to, so so I won't be able to do Philadelphia either. So so I won't be at Fan Expo Philly, which is a great show. But I will be at Fan Expo Dallas, Fan Expo Denver, Fan Expo Boston. I'll be at San Diego, and I'll be at Comic-Con Revolution actually in mid-May. So
in Ontario.
Yeah, Ontario. Are you? Yeah,
I live very close. I mean, tomorrow.
You should go. It's a great show. Yeah,
I was there last year. I loved it.
It's a great show.
Bigger every year too.
I was supposed to go last year, but I got COVID. So, but I'm gonna be there. Like, fingers crossed I don't get COVID. But
that's right.
I'm going to a wedding though, so who knows? Like,
who knows anymore? Yeah,
you don't want to wear a mask because you're wearing like a freaking, you're dressed up. And Anyway, but yeah, like Adam Kubert's going to be there. There's a lot of people. It's going to be a fun show. So it'd be nice to see Adam again. I'm like, dude, he's such a good dude, man. He's a nice guy. He's a talented artist, very nice guy. Like it's really cool to meet guys who are super, but also super awesome people too at the same time. It's always like a huge treat. You're like, this guy's awesome. So yeah, you should go. It's I think it's May. Oh man,
something. It's coming up though. It's coming up because I'm on their their list where they email you to let you know when.
Yeah, you should go. It's only a Saturday and Sunday. It's a 2-day show. You just show up, buy a couple things, or do whatever. I'll be there. A lot of other guys will be there. I'm not quite sure what the guest list is, but I know Adam's going to be there because
I'm surprised. Yeah, that's awesome that you and Adam are going to be there. I think Marv Wolfman was there last year, and he was kind of
great.
Oh, he's amazing. Yeah. So I got my Teen Titans signed by him, which is pretty fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great show. I mean, it's 40 minutes from my house, so I loved it that I could just drive over there and.
Now you have to go. I'll be.
I gotta go. Yeah.
See you, man. I'm like, oh, okay, I see.
Yeah.
It's a local show. You should go. Yeah.
And you said San Diego, you're going to have the Transformers exclusive for that one too, right?
Yep, and at Fan Expo Dallas, we'll have an exclusive for that too. Yeah. So there's an A and B cover on that, and then for our San Diego exclusive, it's going to be what is that going to be? I can't spoil it. So
no, don't do anything.
It'll be really cool. I hope people will like it. So both are going to be Optimus Prime covers because I love Optimus Prime. So, but hopefully people will. Like, oh, cool. I'm like, great, give me your wallet. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah. So I'm hoping that happens. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. And then as far as Starfire goes, I got a big community of friends that we all collect. We'll find one for you, my friend.
If you find one, let me know. Like that would do me a solid because I'm slowly working on a complete collection of my Teen Titans Rebirth. So they have a Rebirth Robin that Todd did. And he did a Rebirth Kid Flash, which of course I designed. And then I have a Kid Flash and a Starfire and a Beast Boy from the old DC line.
So DC Direct ones.
Right. So I just need someone to do my what's her name? Raven, Raven design. So
did you get Raven with the new set that was out?
No, that's not based off of my design. So
it's not.
Yeah. But if it's based off my design, I'll pick it up. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, yeah, right on.
I mean, that's to me. Like, if I'm an artist and then there's an action figure that has been created based upon my design, I just think that is like peak excitement.
Yeah, it's a total geek out moment. You feel like you did something right?
Yeah.
So, it's like, wow, you know what? I'm gonna go eat a cheeseburger now. I'm so happy, right? So I just like it because I buy it and I look at it and then I put it in a box and I put it in my closet because I have no room. Like I have no room. Like there's I've got like 6 shelves full of books and trade paperbacks and art books and anime books and stuff like that, and then crammed in there are statues and hot toys and all kinds of stupid stuff that I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just buy this and now I'm looking at it like, dude, like, what am I all cracked? Like, why? Wife's like, why you buy it? You just look at it and you put it in the box and you put it in storage. I'm like, yeah, I should just stop. I should just
starting to get bothered by my addiction after you said that.
Well, I think the thing about it is you do what you love.
Yeah.
As long as it brings you joy, that's cool. I think the thing about it is, though, there is such thing as like, okay, maybe if you're just doing like 6-inch figures, that's probably smart. Stick with that. It's because then it's when you move up, you're doing 6-inch figures, and then you decide to do the hot toy stuff or the boutique figures, which are 12-inch or more, and it's like 100 times the price, and you're just like, dude. Oh. But I mean, it's kind of weird because I was working on those Transformer covers, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I always wanted a Masterpiece Optimus Prime, so I bought an MP44S, which is the one the really good one with the blue eyes. So I got that, and then I went and bought a Megatron too, and like the Masterpiece.
You have to have Megatron if you have Optimus. I mean,
right. And those are the only two that I want to do because I saw other ones that looked really cool, but I'm like, I started collecting some of the MDX ones from 3.0, but I'm just like, dude, I can't. Like, I have to stop somewhere. It's either like you collect this, you collect that. Like I've got like too many things. I'm like,
I know
it's not good, man. This is not good. It's not healthy at all. So
no, it's not. It actually, and my wife goes, I'm not sure this is a healthy thing that you're doing.
Well,
he came out with 143 figures last year. Todd McFarlane did, and I don't have to have. I'm not a completionist.
Right.
I have friends that are completionists, and they have to have every single one, and they're inbox collectors. And I have you got to check this guy out. His name is, he goes by House of Geekery. He's a good friend of mine. LT, amazing human being, like one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. But he's an inbox collector. You go through his apartment from floor to ceiling. He has thumbtacks, and they're just, his whole wall is covered. It's amazing to see. But he has to have every single character, and it stresses me out when I start to think I'm missing a character. And then when I start to have that feeling, that's when I go, it might be going a little bit further than just
right. I think I've hit that point where I'm just like, maybe I don't need to do this because like I actually ended up canceling a lot of my sideshow orders because like they got pushed back anyway. So I was like, maybe it's a good time to cancel it.
That'd be a sign, right?
it's $350.
Yeah,
I did keep the re-release Batman Justice League figure. So
I mean, that's pretty dope, though.
That is pretty dope. But then there's other ones that are pretty dope too. But I'm just like, I'm just gonna look at it and then I'm gonna put it away, and then it's gonna disappear in my closet. Like crap in there, and I'm just like, my wife's like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, I don't know. She's like, if you're not taking it out and admiring it, then why are you doing it?
Exactly. No, my wife said everything I do has to stay in this room, and that's why I'm an out of the box collector. Because if I was in box, there'd just be in the closet.
There'd be no room. Yeah, there'd be no way. Right? It's just like. I think you're doing it right though. 6-inch figures is pretty much a good mainstay to kind of stay like, okay, that's your lane and that's it. But then I'm all over the place. I was just like, oh well, how about this? Oh, I like this. And then I bought this like Dark Horse, Prime Studios.
Yeah.
So they did something with Acme where they did this like limited edition Hellboy statue. And it was like, it came out, it was like $900. And I was like, oh, dude, I always wanted one. I found one online. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll buy it. I bought it for $1,000. I didn't realize how big it was. Then I got the box in. I'm like, oh, geez.
Because they're like 2.5 feet, right?
Something like that. It's huge.
They're big.
My wife's like, where are you going to put that? I'm like, I don't know. She's like,
in our bedroom on the nightstand, honey.
No, that box stayed there in our foyer for like a month. And she's like, when are you going to move this thing? I'm like, I don't know. She's like, you need to move it. Like, you can't leave this here. Like, you got to move your crap. So I just put it in storage. So I'm like, there's nowhere I can set it up. She's like, how much did you pay for that? I'm like, $1,000. She's like,
that's what I do.
Yeah. I should have just invested it. So I was just like,
well, you know, the good thing is those type usually hold their value pretty good. So if you ever have to resell, usually you could do pretty well on that.
yeah, but I have to open it up and inspect it, make sure it's not busted. Right?
That's true. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's kind of like, oh man.
Yeah.
There's such a thing of like, do not impulse buy when it comes to your collectibles, because I think we've all been there. We're like, oh, FOMO, I gotta have it.
Yeah.
When you got it, you're like, I don't even collect Star Wars. Why do I even buy this stupid thing, right? Like, I bought 2 Shore Troopers, and it's just like from I forget that. It was the Shore Troopers, right? And I got the Commander and the basic Trooper, and I thought they were cool, so I bought them. And when I got them, I'm like, why did I buy these? Like, I don't even collect Star Wars. They're cool. It's a cool design. I love it. But I'm like, dude, what am I doing?
I got a few of those myself. Yep.
Yeah, man. I just like, maybe I'll gift it to a friend or something. I don't know. Just like, what am I doing, man? This is the kind of fuckery you get into when you're like a collector, and then you're just so excited about things, and you're just like, oh, I'm gonna buy that, and you're like, maybe you should pump the brakes on it and just like, if you still want it in like a month, then buy it. But if not, don't do it, because there's just like, look around, there's no room. Where are you gonna put it? And it's gonna live in your storage locker, or it's gonna live in your closet. And you just see it once a year when you clean things out. You're like, oh, that's where that thing went. So, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, that's this is what I know. We've kind of regressed our conversation a little bit to like childish man things that we buy for.
It's so relatable though, as a collector though. I think a lot of people relate to it though.
Dude, like I have so many artist friends who are the same boat. Like they're worse than me. Like I'll go in and it's like Dustin Gwynn loves Transformers, man.
Yeah.
And every time I visit his studio, it's Batman toys and freaking Transformers everywhere. And it's like a bomb exploded. I'm like, dude, he's like, oh, I know. I know, man. I was like, okay. All right.
Yeah. So cool.
And I became that person too. Look at all this crap everywhere. And it's just like, oh.
Yeah.
What am I thinking? So I don't know if other artists you talk to do that too. I'm sure they do.
Oh yeah. You know, I've had Tim Seeley on a couple times, and he's a pretty big action figure collector as well. He was downstairs.
He's big on He-Man too. I'm sure he's huge.
It's huge He-Man. He is obsessed with He-Man. He's got He-Man everywhere. But you know, he's our age, so he you know, all those like 80s cartoons, he's got like figures of all that. I had Tony Fleece on. He's not as bad as Tim, but he also is a collector. It's funny, I get him on and then we spend 10 minutes and I'm showing him around because they want to see my collection before we start. So that's kind of cool.
You know what it is? All that stuff we could not afford as a kid.
Yes.
Now that we're adults and we have money, we run out and buy it like stupid idiots. And it's just like, there's got to be a limit, right? It's just, you just gotta say no.
Yeah. I had Todd on.
I have to
saw my collection and he goes, now I know how my kids got into college. Thank you. Like, yeah, I probably helped your kids.
You're paying for Todd's good time. Like, he's like, it's guys like you that keep
and he needs it.
That's the only thing I was kind of worried. You know, the thing about it is he has this license for DC and he really wants to make it count. I understand why. Because he wants to make his it's the same thing. He wants to make his mark on the brand, you know, and that's why he wants to do all this. So all the figures that he can do something with, he wants to do something with, which I get. For me, I'm more of a quality person than quantity. So it's like, hey, you know, maybe if you dial it back a little bit and spend a little more money on this, like, because like the thing about it is like that I'm surprised has not dawned on him yet is interchangeability. Like, if he does a figure where you can pop the head off, you can sell sets of like interchangeable Batman heads that go with that figure, or those sets, interchangeable arms. Like you can sell accessory packs, dude, and you can sell them for as much as a figure, and it's less plastic.
Yeah,
you know. But yeah, maybe I'll mention that to Todd next time I see him. Like, you should do that. You make more money.
If I find like a set of Batman heads in the next year, I will know wwhose idea that was now.
You knew that happened, so you're like, oh, I must have talked to Todd. But I mean, Todd always has good ideas all the time. Todd always has a lot of ideas, because when we would talk, it was always about like, well, what about this? What about that? Or hey, what if we took it here? And that it's really good to be in company of people who are so passionate about what they want to do. But the thing about that, though, sometimes the danger in that is sometimes then you're fighting for what vision you're going to go for, right? You know, that's always hard too, because then you're like, well, we kind of like our idea better than your idea, and then you're like, you have to find a way to where everyone kind of has that voice a little bit, where it feels like it's like we're all contributing here. Because you know you always want to play nice with other people's toys too, as much as you can. So, but sometimes it works out great, and sometimes it doesn't, and that's just comics, and that's how it goes. So you do the best you can with what you got. So
exactly.
yeah, for sure. But no, man, it's kind of nice to know that other creators have that same kind of kryptonite.
They do.
So. It used to be books, but I finally ran out of book space. So I kind of stopped buying books. Or if I buy books, then the thing is, if I buy books, then I have to find ones to cull out of my collection. I'll donate to the local library or something. So, but it's I just need to buy a bigger place. I think that's
there you go.
Fit all my crap in it. So then
I'm just afraid I'll have this giant space, and then I fill it out, and I'm in the exact same problem that I'm in currently right now.
That's what happens. That is exactly what happens. And you say, I finally set everything up, and I don't have enough room. So but,
I feel like that's a Twilight Zone episode somewhere in their history of episodes.
Yeah, you kind of don't want to let your collections get out of control. I kind of feel like maybe mine has. So I'm looking forward to selling some at some point. It used to be really easy to sell stuff on eBay. But now it got complicated with all the taxes and stuff. Now you have to associate with eBay. Now it's just kind of like, do I really want to list this? Do I want to do that? I just feel like I feel like I could just set up a table, or like somebody I know who sells toys. I'm like, look, dude, consignment, and I'll cut you for like 10% or whatever.
You can probably do that. That'd probably be easier.
Yeah, it might be easier that way. I'm not so attached to it. So way I don't see it get sold, I just get some money for it, and then I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. Even though I didn't want to sell it, but I'm glad I sold it. So I don't know. Anyway, so what were we talking about?
I don't know, Jonboy. I don't know, man. But man, it has been such an awesome time to get to know you a little bit better, Jonboy, and to have this time. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to have you on. We said we'd go for like 30 to 45 minutes, and here we are, almost an hour and a half later. But I mean, it's up to you, man. I know you were working and stuff, and you're stopping.
Maybe we wrap this up at like in 8 to 10 minutes, because I got to get back to this cover and try to get to bed at a somewhat normal. I can't pull another all-nighter. So that's the thing about all-nighters. If you pull all-nighters all the time, they're not really all-nighters. It's just your norm and failure to plan. So, and this is right now a failure to plan. So, but I'm trying to catch up as much as I can. So,
do you find working later in the day, you're able to concentrate a little bit better?
No, actually, I don't like working that late. I don't like working past 10. I like to be in bed by 10. Because the older you get, it kind of messes with your hormones. So you don't want to do that, especially when you get older. But I used to get up at 5 in the morning, work out, and then I go right into drawing. So I kind of need to reestablish those habits again. So, I think the thing about it is when you travel a lot, and I think last year I did like 16 shows.
Wow.
And I'm doing the same amount this year, and it really kind of screws with you a little bit, because then
it does.
When you get back, you don't sleep too well, and then you have all these deadlines, and you're like, it's this weird cycle that you kind of get on. So I need to rethink my life decisions here, and maybe fewer shows make the shows that I go to count instead of volume. So but it's nice to do a bunch of shows and meet fans and stuff like that. But the thing about it is you don't want to make a habit of doing the same shows all the time, because then people know that you're more accessible. They won't stop by your table, but like, oh, he was here last year. He'll be there again next year. It's no big deal. So you don't want to get into that trap either. So it's absence does do you a bit of good sometimes too. So
for sure. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. Do you try to have, like, what titles are you taking when you go to a show? Do you take a little bit of everything, or are there certain titles that fans are going to be looking for?
I try to bring stuff that I've done currently and stuff that people can't get, like my 1-in-100 books or things like that. I have a couple I'll try to bring to shows, but I usually bring about anywhere from like 75 to 150 comics to sell. Of those, I'll do probably 10 remarks. I'll do 3 or 4 sketch covers a show and things like that, and sell prints and things like that. That's normally what I bring. I think for Ontario, it's only a 2-day show, so I might go a little lighter. I might bring like just 75 books and some prints, and try to take it easy. I might do a couple remarks, but I'm not going to go hard in the paint because I still have a stack of like sketch covers I have to do for people. I just haven't gotten to because I've been so busy. So, and I hate making people wait. It's the worst thing. People have been really good about it. They're like, hey, just whenever you get to it, that's cool. I'm like, okay, cool. I don't want people to think that I'm holding on to their money and not delivering. So I just want to make sure I have time to actually do good work for them too. So, I mean, people work hard for their money. I want to make sure people feel like they're getting their money's worth. So, because like for me, I'm the same way, because like, look, I'm buying hot toys and then not playing with them. I'm just like, great, I got it. And you're just like, dude, what is wrong with you? So, it's such a bad thing.
A lot of buyers regret when you're a collector, man.
But that said, I do still want a Starfire. I'm just putting it out there. I'm not gonna turn that down. So if you find one, let me know. I'll be happy to pay you back for it.
No worries, man. It would be a pleasure to know that I've added to your collection that your wife will probably shake her head at, but I know that I was able to add to it.
Well, it's something that I directly worked on as far as terms of design. So it's like, okay, cool. Like, all right, cool. Like that's something that is kind of cool to have. But they were limited to 1 per customer, so I don't know how that's going to work out for people because I don't know how many they do in a run.
I mean, there's a lot of speculation on the run. You're talking about the newest Starfire that just came out like 3 weeks ago, right? That's
right. Well, sold out in a couple hours.
Yeah, so, no, it was everyone. So it was I think a 4-pack or 4 figures that came out at the same time. Starfire was the quickest gone, just done.
Yeah,
she was sold really fast. So what I normally could do, and again, someone will have an extra one. Everyone always does, because that's the type of figure that if you're in a Target and you actually, find one, because Target is the best place to look for those.
Right.
They'll buy an extra one just because they know the value is going to be there, and then it becomes a trading tool for figures that they don't have, and that's what I do. So at San Diego,
like a commodity, right? It's like, okay,
it's a commodity, right? It really is. So I have, last year I was at San Diego Comic-Con, and I have the Nightfall Batman that was a San Diego exclusive, and then I have the Superman one that is San Diego Comic-Con. So I will put it out there to the collecting world that I will trade them for one of my extras for their extra Starfire, and we'll get you hooked up, John Boy. I'll work on
cool. That. Thanks, man. Maybe if there's something I can do for you, let me know. I can repay it solid. So definitely.
Well, I'll see you in Ontario, man. That's
cool.
Yeah,
that'd be cool. Yeah, I hope to see you there. Are you going to set up, or are you just going to walk around, or what are you going to do?
I think I'm going to do the walk. I was going to get a table there because I have my own comic as well, but I'll probably just walk that one.
Okay.
And I think I reached out to them, and I think I was just a little late. I have my issue 3 that I'm working on right now, and I'm on page 10. And when I do my Kickstarter, I'd like to be almost done with the entire thing. That way I could fulfill as fast as possible.
Yeah, that's how I am. I don't like making people wait, man. It's like,
I've done Kickstarters where like a year later I get the book and I even forgot who the person was, why I was like into it. And I get it. Everyone has a different style. So I'm not pooping on anybody, but it's just, man, a year later.
I think you have 90 days to deliver a book.
I think it's fair, right? That's pretty fair.
Honestly, 60 days is more reasonable to me. Especially if you're getting it shipped and sent out, like, overseas, and you're getting it in. But again, you never want to make people feel like they've been cheated or anything like that, because people really work hard for their money, and you know, whatever you choose to blow your money on, you know, you want to make sure you got your money's worth, even if you look at it for 5 seconds and you stuff it in your closet, you know what I mean? But, you know, at least you got it, you know? So
exactly.
yeah, I know that feeling, but I've been burned on a lot of Kickstarters too.
Yeah.
From like people I know, and I'm like,
oh,
what?
Yeah, that's not good.
Well,
I fear that, to be honest. I fear that when I do a Kickstarter, I want to make sure I have everything ready, because the fear is burning people that have entrusted me to execute what they're paying for. And that I'll be up at night. The Kickstarters are a pain in the ass, to be honest, too, emotionally, because you get that first bump in the first like 5 days. You're like, yes, and then nobody does anything for like the middle, and then the last 6 or 7 days, people come back, and you're just hoping enough get you across the finish line.
It's a lot of work to keep that engagement going, for sure, man, because you're always like, hey, please help us hit these numbers. And I'm doing sketch stuff along with that too, so I'm kind of debating like how much to charge for like sketches and books and stuff, because I have actually a removable sketch plate that you can put in the book or leave out.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so if people want to frame that or sell it, they can do that and still hold on to the book. So I just don't know how much to charge for like headshots. So I'm trying to still figure out that price point. So I don't know, because I don't do fast sketches. I don't want to do that. I want to do something that's a nice piece of art for people. So I don't know.
Yeah. I wouldn't even know what to say, John.
I don't know either. I'll have to talk.
Years worth of experience going into that sketch is probably not going to be.
Well, a lot of my friends are like, dude, you're doing sketches? Are you dumb? And I'm like, no, I want to do sketches. They're like, oh man, that's a lot of work. Because like I'm planning on like doing like 100+ sketches, like head sketches.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, and I'm like, well, they're like, that's a lot. Like, they're like, I do like 25. I wouldn't do more than that. I'm like, yeah, but 25.
I mean, 100 sketches is probably close to a couple comic books worth of art that you have to get done.
Probably.
Right? Panel by panel. I mean, that's got to be 2 or 3 comic books that you're completing in sketches.
It's like a 4x6 area that I'd be doing sketch in. So yeah, I don't know. I haven't quite figured out that tier. The tier is ready. I just haven't decided on how much to charge for that. So I don't know. You know what? When we run the Kickstarter, we'll find out. Hopefully it's not. People are like, this is too much. I'm like, but it's cool art. Like, you're getting art. But they're like,
like real art. I mean, this is amazing.
Real art. Like, real art. So it's real. But yeah.
Well, John, be super respectful. I know you don't want to do an all-nighter. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you entrusting me, bringing you on and talking about your career. I think some of the things that you brought up are so helpful for aspiring artists that want to get into comics. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you entrusting me with those stories.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I'm thrilled to be here. Great to meet your acquaintance. And I think to all those people who are aspiring, I think the best thing you can do for yourself is treat art like a sport. And when I say that is, if you want to get good, you got to spend hours and hours and hours on it. Like, be Kobe. Yeah. Kobe would work out 3 times a day. He'd work out 16 hours a day in the off season. So, he's really committed to becoming better and doing better. And that's the type of mentality you want to have if you want to make it in this industry and stay in it and be really good. You got to stay with it. It's about consistency and discipline and doing it even when you don't want to do it or don't even feel like it. And even though you're doing the work and you may not like what you're doing, just stick with it. That I think that's the most important thing that you can do for yourself, is just keep creating. That's the thing. Consistency, discipline. So, and you'll see your growth. After a couple months, when you're doing it consistently, you're going to see jumps in what you're doing and your thinking, and setting yourself up for success. So anyway, we'll do this again really soon, I promise. And I will bring a copy of the sketchbook with me to Ontario, so I can just give it to you there.
I'll see you there.
Yeah, let me know what you think. So
awesome.
All right.
And once I get that Starfire, I'll reach out to you.
Yes, let me know. That would be awesome. You're like, okay, we got one. I'm like, cool. They're like $100. I'm like, all right.
we won't pay that much, I promise.
No, it's a $30 figure though.
It's a $30 figure, so and it's still very new, and
which is weird though, because they're like $20 at Target, right?
Well, with that one, because it's the McFarlane exclusive, it'll be $29.99 at Target. Because they come in the larger black boxes, they come with a nicer trading card, so that one will go for $29.99 at a Target. Okay. Yeah. But people are finding them. I'm watching videos of people finding Starfire in Target. So what happens is he launches it on his website, and then Big Bad Toy Store, Entertainment Earth, all of them do it. And then like a month later, they start to hit stores, and they're starting to hit stores now. So we'll find one for you.
I need to jump on Target after this and check it real quick before I start work. I need to do that 20 again. Like side and stuff. Do you remember back in the day when Target would do their first stocks in the morning? Because my brother and I would drive to Target and Toys R Us right when they open and run to see what's there every morning and look at the toys and pick up. I don't know if people do that anymore. Do they?
Oh, they do. They do. Okay. Oh yeah, they do. Especially you get some of these older guys that collect Hot Wheels.
Oh,
they know exactly when the deliveries, like whatever the days are, like every Monday and Thursday.
Over Hot Wheels, and I had no idea. It's just like, dude, it's a 2-inch car. What's going on there? Like, no, it's the sticker. It's different.
Yeah. No, I mean some of these Hot Wheel cars from buddies that I know are $500-$600 and they're brand new. You find them in stores. Yeah. So yeah, I mean everything has their thing, man. It's crazy.
That's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I will see you guys. I'll see you in Ontario.
Yes, Ontario. I'll be there. Thank you, Jonboy. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Tommy. Have a good night.
Yeah, same to you. Thanks everybody for following.